6 months ago, Sam texted the 3 most dangerous words in the language. I think I'm in love. He'd known her 9 days. Tonight he's sitting in Maya and Dev's kitchen saying 5 words instead. I think it's just gone. Nothing happened. That's the part he keeps circling. Nobody cheated. Nobody screamed. She's the same person, the same laugh, the same everything he once described, at this same table as cosmic, and he feels nothing. He watched the most certain feeling of his entire life drain out of him like water out of a bath, and he cannot tell you the day the plug came out. So Sam asks the question everyone asks, the one that sounds like heartbreak but is really a question about physics. If it was real, where did it go? And from the corner of the kitchen, where he's been sitting quietly for 6 episodes, waiting, letting the romantics talk, a bad-tempered German with white hair flying off his skull in 2 directions finally stands up. He's been laughing at every answer this channel has given. Now he'd like his turn. Nothing went anywhere, he says. You were never in love. You were used. And the feeling switched off because it had finished its job. His name is Arthur Schopenhauer. He is about to say the most disturbing thing anyone will say on this channel. And the worst part isn't that he's cruel, it's that his argument is good. Let's put the accusation on the table whole, because Schopenhauer never softened anything in his life, and we're not going to start for him. Every episode of this channel so far has assumed love is yours. Plato said your desire climbs toward the good. Aristotle said you love a person's character. Bell Hooks said love is something you do. Sartre said it's a choice a free person keeps making. Lewis said there are 4 of them, and you can tell them apart. Schopenhauer says, adorable. Every one of you is a puppet arguing about who's holding the strings. Because in 1844 he published a chapter that landed in the middle of the Romantic era, like a brick through a stained glass window. Poets were writing about souls recognizing each other across a room. Schopenhauer wrote, calmly, with citations, that what recognizes each other across a room is not 2 souls. It's 2 sets of chromosomes doing arithmetic. And here's why you can't just wave him off. He's not saying love is silly. He's saying love is a deception with a purpose, that nature needs you to feel that this specific person is the meaning of your existence, because nothing less than that would get an intelligent, self-interested animal to hand over its money, its freedom, its body, and the next 20 years of its life to raising a child. The illusion has to be overwhelming. If it felt like what it actually is, a biological errand, nobody would run it. So the strength of your feeling isn't evidence that it's true. Schopenhauer's point is the reverse. The strength of your feeling is evidence of how much nature needed you to be fooled. Sit with that one. It reframes every love story you've ever been told, including your own. Now, who says this? Arthur Schopenhauer, born 1788, rich, furious, and almost entirely alone. His father was a merchant who died when Arthur was 17, probably by suicide. The money meant Arthur never had to work, which is lucky, because he was completely unemployable. He once scheduled his university lectures at the exact same hour as the most famous philosopher in Germany, Hegel, to steal his students. Almost nobody came. He kept doing it until the class emptied entirely, and he blamed the world. He lived his last decades in Frankfurt, in near-total obscurity, in rooms with a bust of Kant and a statue of the Buddha, eating at the same table, at the same inn, ranting at anyone who sat down. Fame finally found him when he was about 70. And he greeted it the way you'd greet a letter that arrived 30 years late. And this matters, because you're about to hear the most influential theory of love ever written by a man who never once managed to be loved. Hold that. It comes back, and it comes back hard. But first, you have to understand the one idea underneath everything he ever wrote. Because his theory of love isn't a theory about love. It's a corner of something much bigger and much worse. Schopenhauer's big idea is this. Underneath the whole world, Under you, under animals, under the plant cracking the pavement, under gravity itself, there is one blind force. He called it the will. Not will like willpower, not a plan. The will is a striving without a purpose, an engine with no destination and no driver. It doesn't want anything in particular. It just wants, endlessly, insatiably, and it wants through you. Watch what that does to your self-image. You think of yourself as a mind that has desires. Schopenhauer flips it. You are a desire that grew a mind to help it get what it wants. Your intellect isn't the captain. It's the lawyer, hired after the fact to justify decisions the will already made. And you can test that tonight, which is what makes him so hard to escape. Think of a decision you were sure you reasoned your way into. A person you chose. Now be honest about the order of operations. Did you weigh the evidence and then feel the pull? Or did you feel the pull and then go hunting for evidence? That gap between what you decided and the story you told about deciding is the whole of Schopenhauer's philosophy. He just found the place where the gap is widest. That place is love. The chapter is called The Metaphysics of Sexual Love, and it opens by mocking every philosopher before him for ignoring the subject, as if the force that decides who exists next were beneath their dignity. Then he makes his move. All that longing, he says, all that poetry, the sleeplessness, the certainty, has one object, and it is not your happiness. It is the child who does not exist yet. He calls it the genius of the species. Picture it as a kind of intelligence that isn't yours, working through you, with its own agenda and a completely different set of priorities. It has one question. What should the next generation look like? And it has one tool for getting an answer out of you: feeling. So it makes you feel that she is unlike anyone, that this is fate, that you'd die for it. And Schopenhauer's brutal footnote, that feeling is calibrated. It's exactly as strong as it needs to be to overcome your good sense. No more. The intensity of your love is a measure of how much resistance nature expected. And now the argument's teeth. Ask a man in love why her. He'll tell you about her soul, her humor, the way she is when she's tired. Schopenhauer says he's sincere. He's also wrong. Those are the lawyer's arguments. The will already picked, on grounds it isn't going to share with him, and handed his intellect a beautiful story to keep him busy while the errand gets run, which is why, and this is the tell, the lie is always the same lie, and it's always about the future. It never says, you'll enjoy this for about 11 months. It says, forever. It has to. Because what it's actually asking of you takes forever, and nobody signs a 20-year contract for 11 months of pleasure. So what is it choosing on, if not the soul? Schopenhauer's answer is disturbing because it's so mechanical, and then it's more disturbing when you catch yourself nodding. He says the will is trying to produce a balanced child, so it makes you crave the person who corrects your extremes. Too tall wants too short, timid wants bold. The parts of you that overshoot go hunting for someone who undershoots, so the average lands in the middle. You don't feel any of this as arithmetic. You feel it as taste, as my type, as chemistry. And here's where he catches you. He points out that you can be helplessly, physically pulled towards someone you don't even like, someone you'd never choose as a friend, someone your own family can see as a disaster. And you know it, and you go anyway, and you feel noble going. Every single one of us has watched a friend do this. Some of us have been the friend. The romantic has to call that a mystery. Schopenhauer just calls it evidence. Because if love were your intellect choosing a companion for your good, it would be impossible to be dragged towards someone who is obviously bad for you. But if love is the species choosing a co-parent for its good, then your opinion of them was never a factor. It was never in the equation. That's not a bug in your love life. On his account, that's the design. And notice what this does to the checklist, the list you made of what you want in a person. Schopenhauer would say the list is real, it's just not in charge. The list is what you want. The pull is what the species wants. And when the two disagree, watch which one you actually follow at 2 a.m. Now the part that explains Sam's kitchen. If the feeling exists to run an errand, then what happens when the errand is done? It switches off, not because anything failed, because it worked. Schopenhauer describes the moment after. The illusion lifts, the two of you look at each other, and there is a strange, quiet horror in finding a stranger where the meaning of your life was standing a year ago. He says the great passion, once satisfied, leaves behind a disappointment that surprises everyone who feels it and shouldn't. You were promised a soul. You were delivered a person. That's the trade. That was always the trade. And he goes further, which is where people usually put the book down. He says a marriage built purely on that passion is likely to be miserable. Not by bad luck, but because it was arranged by an agent with no interest whatsoever in your happiness. The species got its child. It did not sign up for your Tuesdays. It doesn't care if you're bored or lonely or if you spend 40 years across a table from someone you have nothing to say to. Those aren't its problem. They were never its problem. So Sam sits in that kitchen asking where did it go? And Schopenhauer's answer is the coldest sentence in this series. Nowhere. It went exactly where it was always going. You just thought you were the point. And now the strange part. Because we've built this channel on philosophers whose lives quietly explain their theories. Schopenhauer's doesn't explain his. It convicts it. Start with his mother. Johanna Schopenhauer was a genuine celebrity, a novelist whose salon in Weimar hosted Goethe himself. She also could not stand her son and said so. They fought for years until one day, after an argument on a staircase, she pushed him. Or he fell. The accounts differ, and honestly, with these two, either is plausible. She told him his company was a burden. He left. She lived another 24 years. They never saw each other again. The man who explained why a mother's love exists could not get his own to hold for a single afternoon. Then, Caroline Marquet, his neighbor in Berlin. She was talking too loudly outside his door. He threw her down the stairs. She sued. She claimed lasting injury. He lost. And the court ordered him to pay her a pension every quarter for the rest of her life. He paid it for about 20 years. When word came that she'd finally died, he wrote 5 Latin words in his ledger, and they'll tell you everything about him. Obit anus, abit onus. The old woman dies, the burden departs. Then Flora Weiss, he was 43, she was 17, and out on a boat with him, and he, this famously ungallant man, tried in his way. He offered her a bunch of grapes. She recoiled. She wrote later that she found him repulsive. She let the grapes drop into the water. That's it. That's the great romance in the life of the world's foremost theorist of love. A rejected fruit. Sinking. He wrote an essay called On Women so vicious that his defenders can only explain it by pointing back at that staircase. A man who lost the first woman in his life and spent the rest of it building a philosophy in which no woman could have loved him anyway because love is a trick and it was never available to anybody. And he ended in Frankfurt, alone, with a poodle. He always had a poodle. When one died, he replaced it and gave it the same name, sometimes Boots, but the one that stuck was Atma, from the Sanskrit Atman, the world soul, the one self underneath all things. The man who said we are all one blind will, doomed to strive alone, spent 30 years walking a small white dog he had named the soul of the world. He died in his chair one morning in 1860. The poodle was there. Nobody else was. So here's the question you have to sit with, and I genuinely don't know the answer. Did Arthur Schopenhauer see through love because he was a genius? Or did he build the one philosophy in which the thing he could never get was worthless anyway? And then spend 72 years being right about it, alone, at the same table, in the same inn, in the same city with a dog named after a soul he didn't believe he had? Because there's a version of this where the greatest debunker of love is just the greatest evidence for it. A man in that much pain about a thing that supposedly doesn't exist. Back to Sam and the cold mug. Here's what nobody in this kitchen can honestly do: prove Schopenhauer wrong. The chemistry is real. The timeline is real. That fire does have a half-life. and every honest person over 30 has watched it burn down at least once. He called it in 1844 with no scanner, no study, no data, just a bad mood and an unforgiving eye. So we don't get to dismiss him. We get to notice exactly how much he proved and where he stopped. Schopenhauer proved the ignition. He never touched the engine, because look at what the ledger already says. Lewis: Venus isn't Eros. The appetite and the person wanting are two creatures, and Schopenhauer only ever autopsied the first one. Plato: the rung is where you start, not where you live. Aristotle: character love isn't chemistry. It's built slowly, out of 1,000 ordinary choices about someone's good. Hooks: love is a verb, and a blind will can't conjugate a verb. Sartre: whatever chose the spark, you are the one who chooses tomorrow morning whether to stay. Which means the question Schopenhauer accidentally hands you isn't, was my love real? It's sharper, and it's better, and Sam is sitting inside it right now. The fire went out. Are you still here? Because if the answer is no, Schopenhauer takes the round. That was the species, it ran its errand, it's done with you, and it'll light you up again next spring with someone new and tell you the same forever. But if the answer is yes, if you're still choosing them on an ordinary Tuesday with the fire low and no chemical left to bribe you, then something is happening that the species never asked for and cannot explain. Nature never needed you to sit with someone through chemotherapy. It never needed you to stay after the children were grown. It got its errand run. Everything after that is unpaid. And unpaid work is the only kind that was ever really yours. So it goes in the ledger, in his own cold hand. And we don't get to soften it. Schopenhauer: love is the species using you. It sits on page 2 next to Lewis's 4 loves, and the two of them will never be friends. Good. That's the point of the ledger, not a consensus. A fight, kept honest, one answer at a time. Take this with you tonight. The next time the fire in you goes out and you catch yourself asking, was any of it real? Schopenhauer's answer is that the fire was never the real part. It was the bait. So stop grading your love by the size of the flame. That number was never yours. It was set by something that doesn't know your name and won't be there in the morning. Grade it by what you do when the flame is small, because that number is the only one you ever actually held the pen for. He gets his round. He does not get the last word. Because next time, a woman walks into this kitchen who read all of this, agreed with more of it than you'd expect, and then asked Schopenhauer the one question that takes his whole world apart. Fine, I'm biology, but I'm also the only animal that can look at its own strings and refuse. She'll say the real danger was never that love is chemical. It's that you'll disappear into it, dissolve your whole self into another person, and call the vanishing devotion. Her name is Simone de Beauvoir, and she wants to know if you can have love without losing yourself. Same question, different answer. What is love?